Hello, Player 3 here, and welcome to Retro Rewind. In this series on Deadlymint Entertainment, I talk about, play, and tell you what I think of retro video games. Today, I'm looking at The Immortal, an isometric, action-adventure, RPG, puzzle, game that originally came out in 1990 on the Apple II GS computer. In 1991, the game was ported for the Amiga, Atari ST, NES, IBM Personal Computer, and the Sega Genesis. The game was developed by Will Harvey and published by EA. Harvey's original concept for the game was intended to be an online multiplayer RPG game called Campaign. But as development progressed, it was decided that it would be made into a single-player game. Every version of the game is very similar, except for the NES. Not only did they take out all of the gore from the original version, but they removed a level from the game, and completely changed the look of it. More difficult traps and enemies were added, and your character was even given fireballs to shoot. Despite that, the story remains the same. You are simply an unnamed wizard, who must traverse through a 7 or 8 level labyrinth in order to rescue your wizard mentor. Now, let's take a look at the game. The game begins in a sort of prologue or tutorial room. You can move around and get used to the game, but if you step on what looks to be like a hole in the ground, and you don't move like the game suggests, you get eaten by a giant worm. Sometimes the game will let you continue, sometimes it will just say game over. I'm still not quite sure on how it all works. But if you walk up to the table with the candle, you get greeted by the smoke impression of the wizard Mortimer. He talks to you as such. Dunrick, you have come to save me. I am in the dungeons far below. I know I can count on you. This explains your teacher's mysterious disappearance. But there is one thing strange about the message. Your name is not Dunrick. As you exit the door, you find a fallen soldier, and then a goblin who will promptly greet you. The fighting mechanic in this game takes place in a one-on-one scenario, different from the view of the rest of the game, and can be difficult at times. At least, not for the first goblin. Now, as you search the dead body of the soldier, you find a ring that has the name Dunrick etched into it, and then 3 spells of fire shots. In the NES version, you have infinite fireballs, but in every other version, you rely on a set number of what you find in chests along the way. Now, the fighting mechanic in this game is pretty cool. It relies on you to dodge, slash, or stab, and you do so by pressing a direction where you wish to slash or dodge from, and then press the attack or dodge button accordingly. Now the bars on the far side stand for your health, whereas the ones closer to the center account for your stamina. The higher your stamina bar gets, the more tired and the more slower your attacks become. I've noticed that the goblins have 4 different death sequences. The first one, where his head explodes, the second one, where he turns to ash, another one where he gets struck by lightning, and yet another one, which kinda looks like Mortal Kombat, where he gets cut in half. I see why Nintendo took out the gore. Next, you walk up to this gentleman in the room that the goblin had just been fighting before he had turned to you, and he greets you by saying, "You must rescue Mortimer. He is captive many levels below. The entrance to the lower levels is hidden. Here is a key you will need. I must go now." And then he just disappears. You'll notice that there's a chest in the room next to you. You find 20 gold pieces, a bag of bait, which you don't really need to take. Same with the spores. If you use either of those, you'll die instantly. The map is very helpful because it shows you where the traps are on the first level. Notice at the very top of the screen, there's a set of gold blocks. Those stand for your health. When you enter the combat screen, those bars transfer to the side of the screen, which I mentioned before, to represent health. Now, as you traverse this dark room, you may encounter, well, holes in the ground, or what are called shadows. They are creatures you can't see even when you're attacking them one-on-one. They're pretty tough too. You'll find that this game is pretty much trial and error. Eventually, you make it to the end of level 1 with all of your items you need, and once you take the ladder to the second level, it'll give you a sort of password or certificate. So if you choose to stop for the night, you just need to write down the certificate, and when you open the game again, click No to the New Game and put in the certificate. You'll start with everything you had acquired from the first level, but now at the start of the second one. The same goes for every level further on in the game. If you do die within the level though, you'll have to restart by putting in the certificate at the beginning of each level. I'll now be talking about levels past the first level, so if you wish not to be spoiled by the game, click ahead to this time here. You'll find that in each level you descend, there are new enemies to face, such as slimes or trolls. You'll also find that the trolls and the goblins are at war with each other. The Goblin King, who you had just saved, will be very appreciative, and will tell you of the perils to come in the next level. On a further level below this, you find another enemy to face. Giant fucking spiders. When you climb down to the next level, there will be a troll who had just stabbed someone, who's being held captive. If you kill the troll and walk up to the person, they'll introduce themselves as none other than Dunrick. He says, "I am Dunrick. I sent my servant to warn you. Mortimer isn't a prisoner. He kidnapped my daughter. Tried to threaten. He's manipulating. If I had my ring, I could. But my servant." And if you give Dunrick his ring, he mutters an incantation and gives you 3 spells: Body Statue, Magnetic Hands, and Sonic. Eventually, after giving you these spells, he dies. Once you descend down the ladder, you meet the man you met in the first level. You'll find that he is not an ally like you once thought he was, but a servant of Mortimer's. He'll try to kill you according to Mortimer's orders. Once you kill him and descend the ladder again, you'll climb atop a barrel and row across a winding river. Once you get to the end, you'll see a sort of kraken-like creature, who you have to get close enough to in order for him to follow you. Then you must lure him away to a whirlpool on the other end of the map, so the goblin can open the gate and drain the water. But fuck, this part is hard. If you make it to the final level, you'll open a chest with gold, a fire protection spell, and 6 blink spells. Go down the ladder, and you walk to the center of the empty room. This time you actually want to fall in the hole. Once you've done that, you'll find yourself in a large cavern. While your character climbs upon the ledge, a dragon will slowly appear from the depths. In this part of the game, you must meticulously time everything out in order to surpass the dragon. Once surviving the dragon long enough, Mortimer himself will appear, and you must survive his attacks in the same way that you did the dragon. Mortimer appears by saying, "Fool! Read the words. I've waited 1,000 years for this. Read the words." "Fine. Then I'll just take back my amulet. I have other students who will come. Prepare to die." At which point he will attack you in many different ways, including summoning the Grim Reaper to attack you. Finally, Anna, Dunrick's daughter, will come and save you, and you will both ascend out of the dungeon once and for all. The journey out of the dungeon takes 2 days, but with Anna by your side, time seems unimportant. The water invigorates you with new youth, and you discover a new spring to your walk. As you travel, your thoughts return to Mortimer and the dragon. They were alike in a way, each the only survivor of a civilization destroyed by the other more than 1,000 years ago. They were an equal match, and it seems strange that you would tilt the balance of a conflict forged so long ago. I really enjoyed my time reviewing this game and learning about it, and I recommend it. It may not hold up to what today's standards of games are, but it's sort of a cult classic game, and it's worth a try, as long as you have the time and patience and the $5 or $10 it is to buy the game if you want to find it. Ultimately, I'd say that the Immortal is a solid 7 out of 10. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please let me know what you thought of this video in the comments, what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you'd like to see differently in future episodes. See you next time.